Shalom to everyone. I don't know how do you all feel, but I feel very different doing an Upanishadic class now. It's very, very different. I tell you, it's never the same doing the first thing in the day. Because, you know, it takes so much to attune your mind and intellect. It is that equipment you have to capture. And when such an equipment has been put through ruggedness of the terrestrial transactions of the world, it loses its luster, it loses its ability to absorb, receive. But the only person who is bright and rosy in the classroom is RPG. And look at the glow, look at the smile, look at that. The room also is a little brighter. You know, it's because it's 7:30 in the morning for him. Is it? Am I right, RPG? Ah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We appreciate this next 4 weeks, actually.
You wait. See, change is the only thing that is permanent. So there might be a change very soon round the corner.
Yeah. Normally, I'm falling asleep. I'm falling asleep in your class because it's getting close to our sleeping time by the end of the normal class. So, because it's 9:15 by the time you finish the class, and we're, you know, 9:30, quarter to 10. We're getting ready for sleep. So.
Yeah, it's a little different for you today. I'm sure you feel the difference. Yeah, happy for you, but a lot of
not for everybody else, yeah.
It means a lot of pressure on me now, you know. Right. So the last we were covering where the verses from 5 to 9, where the Guru seems to repeat that statement, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. That alone, know that alone to be Brahman, not this which people worship. So as I was talking about the capacity of the equipments to receive, at the same time, if you use your faculties to convey something, you need to have your faculties to your optimum to be able to describe anything to do justice to what you're describing. Like say, if I were to ask you to describe something which is gross, something which is physical, something which is material, and if I were to ask you to capture the beauty of something physical, let's say you've seen the Niagara Falls, or you've seen the Eiffel Tower, or you've seen the Taj Mahal, anything out there which really awed you by perception, it's completely overwhelmed you, and you have had that first-hand experience, and I ask you to please share that experience with me. What it is to share that experience? Well, you will use every possible way and means, and if you have the language, if you have the capacity, you might do a fair job in conveying what is that experience of seeing the Taj Mahal, isn't it? But still you would agree with me that it's not the same of having that subjective experience yourself. You could be very good in describing, but it's nowhere near. But anything gross and material you're able to convey. You have the equipments, you have the mind and intellect, you'll be able to convey. Now you go a little beyond the gross. I'm slowly moving from the gross to the subtle. Anything physical, material, you'll be able to convey, no doubt, but not to the extent that it's equal to subjective experience. But if I were to try to ask you to explain emotions in a language, how much you love someone, whomever you love, the dearest in your life. It could be a guru, or it could be a child, it could be a spouse. It could be anyone out there. You have such love for the person. Please convey in words. How do you put that in words? You would say, she's my darling. He's my gulab jamun. He's everything for me. He's my rasgulla. He's my love. He's my heart. He's never broken my heart. And you may try to use every possible way to inject that love and affection through words which convey a certain feeling, that love, that togetherness. But then beyond a point, then you'll start using various kinds of expressions, isn't it? Words can't convey that love. Nowadays, you have all kinds of, what do you call in this? WhatsApp. You have all these tools. You have, is what you call them? Some OGs, emojis, emojis. My God, all kinds of emojis you find. And that one picture is enough to convey something which you may have to put it in as many words, but that picture will tell everything, isn't it? So you use pictures, emojis. You may not understand the language of a person, but if somebody is smiling, you know that emotion. If somebody is frowning, you know the emotion. If somebody is in distress, you know what that person is experiencing. It's not conveyed. It's just that feeling is able to convey through expressions. So you know how difficult it is to just convey an emotion, a feeling. If you are annoyed with someone, it's just that stern look is enough to convey that something is not right and you're not happy with that person. You don't have to express itself, but just that mere expression is enough, isn't it? So you're moved from gross, physical to subtle emotions. Now, when you move to any intellection, you move to a subject matter like mathematics. In fact, to a certain extent, even in science, you resort to symbols, don't you? In mathematics, it's 100% symbols. There's no explanation there, just symbols. Why? Language breaks to explain something intellectual. Now, when you come to describing the Atman, you want these men to describe Brahman, describe the self. How is it possible to explain Brahman, explain the Atman? Therefore, in the very first of the thought flow from verse 5, the mantra 5 onwards, he confesses, it is that which cannot be expressed by speech. He gives it up. He says it's something which cannot be expressed. So you're moving from the grossest to the subtlest, and subtlest is something which cannot be described. Therefore, he says, it's that which cannot be expressed through speech. It's too subtle. It is that which actually animates your very speech itself. It's that which enables you to speak, not what you speak. That was said in the fifth mantra. And then we did mention here, he's condemning those who get involved with saguna upasana. Not that you should not perform saguna upasana. Saguna means something when you perform, when you use symbols. In fact, as I've said, in mathematics, you use symbols. In religion, though, are you not using a crescent or a cross or an om? Or the various symbols, the gods and goddesses, the various rituals, whether it be the tilak, or you wear a You wear a mala around your head, whatever it be. Everything is a symbol. So what he is condemning is those who get stuck to using these symbols as an end in itself. That's what the text is attacking. The Guru is trying to dismiss your short-sighted perception that you're not able to conceive self-realization, which is the end, which is what you should try to aspire to reach. But you're just got caught up in the means. You're just so enamored by the process. You're not interested in the end. One who is interested in the end, he will not be interested in the process. Doesn't matter. If it helps, first and foremost, you take such care. In fact, you know why people get stuck to the idols? Because you have taken such care that it gives you an impression of something higher, isn't it? Like you choose an incense stick. There are hundreds of fragrances you find in the market, but then you choose a fragrance which suits well with you. It reminds you, it goes well with you, it gels well with you. You choose an idol which you're able to relate to. You perform a ritual you're able to relate to, but thereafter you've forgotten that the only purpose you have chosen is to remind you of the end. But in the process, when you forget that it's meant to remind you of the end and gets caught up in the process itself, that is the worst type of attachment. The worst type of attachment is to get attached to the spiritual path itself. And it is very, very difficult to get out of spiritual attachment. I must tell you this. It is not easy to be detached. You may be detached from the world. You may be detached from money. You may be detached from family. You may be detached from name. You may be detached from everything out worldly. But it requires a different degree of detachment, the same detachment, but a different degree of detachment to be detached from the spiritual practices. It's not easy. Some of us may have the conviction to say, I see the hollowness in these worldly material things. More so now when you understand life itself is so impermanent. Today, if somebody near and dear is, what do you call them, passes away because of COVID, I would not have been able to share my feelings or emotions. Nobody would be there. What kind of a life is that? What kind of a passage is that? Nothing is certain. You may philosophize, you understand, you may be detached to it, but it is very difficult to be detached to spiritual practices. Very, very difficult. So you've got to be very, very careful. And I don't see anybody bothered at all. And I'm only trying to say that is because the verse is saying, all these set of verses are talking of it. Why is it difficult to be detached to spiritual practices? A very, very pertinent question. And it's very important you know why it is difficult. And you must answer this question assuming that you're attached, which most likely is the case. I don't want to be certain about it, but I'll give you that 0.1% that you may be detached to the practices, but there's a very, very, very likelihood that you're extremely attached to whatever spiritual practice or something you're doing in the spiritual path you're attached to, most likely. So the question is, why is it difficult to detach to spiritual practices? Lakshmi Ma.
I'm not sure, Guruji, but
All the wisdom is behind you, and you say that.
it's because it's a more subtle
what
thing,
am I saying? What am I saying? All the wisdom behind you is what?
My books.
Where and there? Huh?
Yeah. No, is it because it's not something material? It's got to do with feelings, emotions.
I said you can be detached to your family. It's emotion. You can be detached to reputation. It's not. I'm not just talking of material things here. And I know you will agree with me. It's not easy to be detached to the family itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something happens to your near and dear, it almost paralyzes you. You become incapacitated, isn't it?
Is it because we, like you said, we see it as an end by itself, that we think that's it? We don't see beyond. We don't know the unknown. So fear of the unknown.
No. My question is, why is it difficult to practice detachment to spiritual practices? Fair enough, no problem. US?
I think it gives you some sort of a solace, like you feel happy, that happiness, you think that is it. So you get attached to that happiness and you are not able to go further.
Initially, we just lost your few words. Could you just, because I'm just keen to know whether you said that word in that.
Solace. You find a solace in it, saying that, thinking that happiness is there. And
well, you thought the same way all through your life, didn't you? When toys came to you, you thought happiness isn't toys. When marriage came to you, you thought marriage and family is everything. When children getting married, you thought that's everything for me. Isn't that, did you not think that way?
Yeah.
Don't you think that way? So what is the difference in this? And at some stage you picked up some spiritual practices, got hold of some guru, and therefore you feel that's everything. Same thing. What is the difference? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to unsettle you so that you are very clear in the understanding. It's not that you have not had joys. It's not that you haven't tasted happiness. It's not that you don't know anything. You have had all the experiences. Think along, ma. Think along. GBKG. Can I request you to repeat the question, please, sir?
It's a difficult degree from spiritual practices which you not able to continue.
No,
why
the question is, why is it difficult to be detached from spiritual practices?
The difficult why? Because on spiritual practices, we get a lot of things which our dreams were there earlier, which if it comes in front of you, you feel that this itself is what is the greatest thing in my life. So this is itself is heaven. Suppose like our Vishwamitra, when he is doing tapas and Urvasi comes, he felt he just, what else I need? This itself is, that is the feeling when you comes, the spiritual practice says, unless you satisfy yourself, that also, which is a vasana is there in your the strong vasana in the mind. So the difficulty is spiritual practice, it stops something which you are gaining in front of you, which is never dreamt. So it difficult comes. So unless you fulfill even that, everything. When I was childhood, cycle. The cycle is my dream. This is the. I thought that is I am on the, I'm on the. I'm in heaven. That is when the scooter comes the same. When car comes the same. When marriage comes the same. Whom I like so much. But it is not the end of there, which it is going on. That is much more attractions are coming on the way, particularly in spiritual path. So there are difficulties which you felt that this is by Siddhi what you got, something more satisfaction, which is ultimate satisfaction you think that time. But that is not the ultimate satisfaction. There, the difficulty comes when it in front of you, that Siddhi comes.
All right. I believe you have conveyed in your own language, I don't go by the words, I'm going by the spirit, and you have captured it. I don't know how much others have been able to get it, but I give the credit to you, what you say. But thank you, Ji. Thank you. Namaskar. Haresh, any idea? Why is it difficult to be detached to spiritual practices?
Hariam Guruji. Guruji, from my understanding, it's difficult to be detached. I don't know if I'm coming from the right angle of thought, but it's just coming to me instinctively. It's become like a lifelong habit since we were very young and since we were born. It's just become a conditioning and a belief system and a habit since childhood. So we've just been conditioned to practice. We're conditioned to practice these rituals of such. And we believe that our belief system is the right belief, and we stand by it because we think that way. It's a conditioning and a habit, I think. I don't know if I'm approaching the right angle of this question.
I don't think, I'm not talking of the ritualistic aspect here. I'm talking about the spiritual practices.
Okay.
You perform karma, you perform bhakti. Now you're enchanted by this knowledge. I'm not saying the speaker, I'm saying the knowledge. The knowledge fascinates you. You are in this journey. You give everything to this great Sanatana Dharma. You understand the grandeur of what this knowledge is. So it's very much possible that you're attached to this knowledge.
Okay, I understand now. Yes. Yeah, it's difficult to be detached because I think we've seen better with ourselves now than we have in the past. We feel we're better people. We have much more depth and realization. So to go back to the path of so-called ignorance of the past is not a very favorable desire to go back to. So,
Okay, I know we are lost for words. I know where you're heading, but I think you also captured it in your own way. In fact, just to get this concept straight and right, not that you have all not got it, but why is it difficult to be detached to spiritual practices vis-a-vis material things? The joys you derive from the material world compared to the joys you derive from the spiritual world, the joys in the spiritual world are far superior to the joys you derive from the material world. So the degree of happiness is far, far greater. Too beyond your ability to have experience. You have never experienced any of those joys, which you have had all these worldly transactions all through, but you have never tasted that subtler, that pure, that chaste experience. And the moment you get into the spiritual realm, you experience that glorious joy and bliss of unselfishness, of service, of higher wisdom. As Harishji said that, you know, the ignorance is dispelled. I don't want to go back to that ignorant life. I'm embracing this wisdom, this luster, this brilliance. And it's something which has awed you. It overwhelms you. Oh my God, there's so much joy, it's so beautiful, it's so enchanting. Obviously, because the joy is far greater here, you get attached to it much greater. Because remember, the principle of attachment, you are attracted to something which gives you pleasure, satisfaction. Anything that gives you displeasure or it detests you, you don't get attached to it, isn't it? Anything you like, you develop attachment. Do you get attached to something you dislike? RPG, do you develop an attachment to something you dislike?
Not willfully, or not typically. No, you don't.
You don't. You're actually dismissing it off your mind, isn't it? Your thoughts. How do you develop an attachment to anything?
What satisfies you? When it,
fair enough. When something's,
you know, bliss or happiness or, you know, thrill, you get attached to it. It feeds your ego, basically.
Feeds your ego. But how does one develop an attachment?
So it's, you know, again, going through the process, it's embedded in that from vasana to thoughts, right? That stream of your thoughts keep running to that thing, and you grow attached to it.
When your thoughts run ungoverned,
yeah,
isn't it? When your thoughts are indiscriminate, impulsive in nature, you develop an attachment. When you detest something, there is no thought of it because it doesn't give any comfort or pleasure to you. So most likely you don't develop an attachment to it. Now, when you get into the spiritual realm of experience, the joy is overwhelming. It's far, far greater thing that you've experienced. So therefore, the attachment also is far greater. Therefore, the degree of detachment also needs to be far higher. Therefore, it is far more difficult to be detached from the spiritual world than the material world. That is what the Guru is condemning. So when he says he condemns Saguna Upasana, he is condemning those who get attached to anything as an end in itself. Here he is not addressing the ritualistic part. You may take it literally, but you must understand it's not what you think is God. So you got to go beyond it. So don't develop an attachment to the process. God is beyond that. So that's the message which came out in the 5th mantra. In the 6th mantra also he said that which cannot be visualized by the mind, that by which the mind conceives, because it's not an object of thought. Brahman is not an object of emotion, neither an object of thought. It is that subject which enables you to feel, enables you to think. Very clear. If you get this statement right, if you capture this, you've got the essence, what the text is saying. All right?